you all. Thank you all for spending time with us here on the 5x5 Network today. And as I mentioned earlier, we have Blessed to Teach in the house, who, as always, bringing it. Rick, how are you today, sir? I cannot hear you. Come on, rookie. What, you haven't done this before?
I was muted to try to be nice and quiet for you. How you doing, Conscious Abe? I'm doing awesome here.
Oh, it's good to see you, man. It's good to see you. So what do you have lined up for everyone here tonight on the Blessed to Teach show this afternoon?
Yeah, there's little news going on right now. Just articles of impeachment being walked over, Flynn fighting back. You've got the China deal being signed. So we'll really dig into the Flynn fight. So that's going to be fun to dig into.
Excellent. Great to hear that. And as always, we look forward to your show and all of you bring. Thank you for all you do for not only the 5x5 Network, but for the greater truth movement as a whole. Thank you, Rick. Much love to you, and God bless.
Yeah, thank you too, Abe.
Everyone out there in chat, God bless you all. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Don't forget, say a prayer for Methods. Much love. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we have just an exciting thing going here at the 5x5 Network. As you can see, it's expanding days as well as time frames. So we are not going to be bored anytime soon at all. I'm actually sharing my screen now, so just make sure that looking good for you guys. We're talking about the Democratic Party death move on the Blessed Teach show here on January 15th. As I said, we're going to also be touching on the huge phase 1 deal with China, which is going to be just fantastic for us. And then we're going to be looking at other awesome things such as the Flynn fight and how he's fighting back, and a ton of news that we will burn through the hour easily. We'll end with a prophecy, end with some scripture, and do a prayer at the end, as usual on the Blessed Teach show. Just to let you know, on Friday on the show, we will have Mark Taylor on live. I know a lot of you follow the channel. I love when I get Mark about once a month or once every 5 weeks or so. He will be live here on Friday. Blessed Teach show it goes around 5 times a week. This is the one time I'm here, so make sure you come to the 5x5 Network and check out all the other guests. For those of you who follow me here, don't forget about looking at some of the earlier 5x5 all day Wednesday, as well as some things on Sunday and other times. So as Super Tad says, we are the news now, right? I love it. That's exactly right. So I don't know if this is just way behind or what. I'm just making sure that my screen looks good when I'm looking at the live view here to make sure that, yep, good, you got the whole screen looking awesome. So I'm going to flip over to show you a couple of things that I thought was exciting. First of all, we're still on December 29th for the latest Q post, but as he drops when he needs to, and when he knows there's massive news that he wants us to learn on our own, he just lets us do Future Proves Past. So we're on Future Proves Past, and boy, do we have a ton to look at it. And this move by the Democrats is a huge mistake. And look at the quote that Nancy Pelosi said here. She said, "This is about the Constitution of the United States, and it's important for the president to know, and for Putin to know, that the American voter should decide who our president is, not Vladimir Putin in Russia." Back to the Russia hoax. I mean, it's been proven to be a complete lie for 2+ years, almost 3 years, and she's bringing that back up. It just shows they have no leg to stand on. They literally are breaking the Constitution by the rules they had to get to this point, but then also with the impeachment articles themselves that aren't defining any crimes or misdemeanors. We're supposed to have separation of powers. That's what that's all about. So to say obstruction of Congress, there's no really such thing for the president of the United States. Give me a break. What are they going to have? Obstruction of the president? I mean, obviously, it's a balance between the Congress and the legislative and the executive branch. There is no such thing as obstruction of Congress for the president of the United States. And obviously, he was just doing what every president's done in the past so many times. So Super Tad says, total embarrassment to our country. The world is watching. And my yesterday's show, that was my name of my show, was The World is Watching. And I went through all the world is watching tweets or drops from Q. There's a ton of them on The World is Watching. exciting to see that. So this is going to be just the death blow, I believe, of the Lord exposing the Democratic fraud. And it's just so obvious, right? And it's this article at the Gateway Pundit, effing crazy. Nancy Pelosi, important for Putin to know the American voters should decide. So even the Gateway Pundit, which I think does a great job of producing truthful reporting, unlike the 4 a.m. talking points of the Mockingbird media, just like a great article, just driving through there showing that how lost this is and how off the rails the Democrats actually are. It's going to be quite fun, though, to see them continue to just make mistake after mistake. And, who knows? Maybe they'll never learn. That might be good because it's just going to continue to expose more and more people to the Great Awakening, I believe. And just walk through the aftermath of this signing ceremony. Dems were giddy with excitement in Capitol hallway asking, did you get your pen? The American people will hold the House Dems accountable for making a mockery of their duty to the Constitution. Let's listen to this. I'm assuming you guys are all getting sound. It's pretty much just clicking of the sound looks good on my side. And that's just a little 30 seconds showing all the pins going around to all these trees in this people. And this is going to go down in history, I believe, as a marking moment in the last time you'll see Democrats in power on any of the branches of government. Senate asked Pelosi if she can send over a copy of impeachment articles without wine stains all over them. I guess look at these impeachment had a wine glass here as well. It's like, wow, I guess Nancy was tipping it a little bit before she sent them over. I don't know, but Mitch McConnell was happy that these articles today so that the Senate could get on with acquitting the president and we can all move on to something much more productive, like making serious, say funny things. But McConnell was forced to ask for the House to send over another copy of the articles after the one he received was covered with dark purple wine stains. So just a mistake after mistake. Pretty wild. Here's an anon on vote.co, voat.co. That's where I get a lot of my news that allows me to sort things, as well as Twitter, which is following awesome anons, is where I love to get most of my news. Here it says, Pelosi cracks me up when she thinks she lands a blow by saying Trump will be forever impeached. I mean, so freaking what? That's a badge of honor. It's the reason the Dems will lose in 2020. And she's fallen back into fifth grade or what? Or something. I mean, who cares that he will be an impeached president forever? Now, I'm going to stop right there and say, I don't think that's going to happen. Just like Kim Clement said, impeach, nay. I think that it's actually going to end up being not only acquitted, but expunged completely once all the indictments, which is now 144,000 indictments. I'm sorry, I want to correct that. Sealed cases. Some of those have been unsealed, around 16,000 of them or so. And then some of them are going to be like search warrants. But the large majority of those 144,000 sealed cases are going to be indictments. And again, most indictments are unsealed usually, but we just see a overwhelmingly big number compared to past. Even in the most liberal and the people that are attacking it, it's at least a 40% increase. Most people say it's almost like a 40x increase, depending on how accurate past information is, which we don't have much. The best counts we have is from 2009. So I just want to make sure everybody understood that it's not, I want to make sure you don't say sealed indictments when you're talking about the cases, the sealed cases we're talking about. But it's really important to know, I really believe once all that comes out, once the rest are made, which is probably going to be after 2020 is my guess about the way things are going right now. I mean, why you want to just continue to expose them and wake up more people so we don't have a civil war like what Bernie Sanders supporters are talking about with James O'Keefe, right? That whole civil war is what we're trying to avoid. The more people we wake up, the less support the radicals are going to get, the more they can clean it up quickly without people getting hurt. And that's exactly how do you wake up enough people to get the tipping point to actually see that those criminals that come out in the streets are actually criminals and not protesters. They are actually people like what the communists are saying in the Bernie Sanders campaign. They're just being revealed now by, again, Project Veritas. We'll get to that in just a second. But this person says, was that even a thing anyone said or thought when Clinton was impeached? It has no effect whatsoever. But she keeps saying it. It makes me wonder if perhaps she's saying he will not live through the Senate trial to see the acquittal there. Maybe it's a threat. She keeps making these thinly veiled threats. So you never know with her evil heart. As we heard, most people are simply seeing this on TV as a battle for power. You know, politics as usual. They're tuning it out. If only that were true. This isn't that kind of battle. This is a host v. parasite battle. Patriots are trying to do a liver colon flush, and the parasites are shooting toxin into the host to try to immobilize it. If the host dies, it takes the parasite with it. So it always shows the short-sightedness of the parasite. Dems, libs, rhinos, progressives, all short-sighted parasites intent on killing the host that allows them to thrive. I hope to God they get flushed soon. And so that's really a good summary, I think, of the whole impeachment scandal that is going to entertain us here for a while. It's going to change the narrative. That's what they want. There's even theories that she delayed it to Iowa, so Bernie Sanders and Liz Warren, who are less electable probably than a more centrist, will be damaged in the Iowa caucus because they won't be campaigning. That's another theory that's out there. Who knows what's in their minds? We know they're controlled by puppet masters in the deep state anyway. The deep state's panicking. They're not making very good decisions, obviously. And that is exactly what I believe we're seeing right now, right before our eyes. What a time to be alive, though, to see this, to see an entire party, one half of our political system collapse. I believe that's exactly what's going to happen. And just as Mark Taylor talks about and Kim Clement, we are going to be united in a later time period, which I believe is going to be like 2022 or so, and there's going to be a mass exodus of people after 2020 that leave the country that can't stand Trump because they have Trump derangement syndrome and they realize another 4 years of Trump, they just can't handle it. And so they're going to be leaving and saying, bye-bye, good, looking forward to you leaving. Here's POTUS. Signs phase 1 of a trade agreement. Now, this is the whole hour and 18-minute video, so I won't be playing much of that, but it's really interesting to see how huge this is. I mean, this is going to be just fantastic to actually get a deal and get China under control, right? Because they were not under control at all, and they were being used to bleed the country. They were being used to buy up Hollywood and buy up land and buy up all our debt so that they could cripple us at a later time. And most of the cabal, at least a significant part of the cabal, obviously is in Israel, is in Iran, but the biggest number of them hide out in the Communist Chinese Party. Huge cabal there, completely controlled by a government. Here's the deal summed up. The deal summed up here. What China has agreed to in the trade deal: up to $50 billion in crops, up to $40 billion in services, up to $50 billion in energy, up to $80 billion in manufacturing. Stop intellectual property theft and currency manipulation. Those last bullet point, I think, is by far the most important, because that is exactly what they were doing. They're completely ripping us off, and that's stopping now. At least they will be punished. They know that Trump's just going to go from 25% tariffs to 35% tariffs, and et cetera, if they break that. And so now the government, for the first time, is being held accountable not to rip us off with intellectual property theft, as well as this currency manipulation where they just print massive money. I showed you a chart a couple of months ago on the show that showed massive money being printed in China, showing that economy over there is a false economy. That is cabal, Federal Reserve dollar printing type style economy that's been created over there, that was designed to kill the United States. But you know what? It's not going to work. And that's exciting to see how we are getting rid of it now. Here, as a candidate, real Donald Trump promised to stand up to China. This is the White House putting this. Today, he kept that promise with the signing of the Phase 1 trade deal. Let's listen to this 29-second video.
Great day today for America. President Donald J. Trump has stood up to China. The results are a Phase 1 deal, which is going to stop the intellectual property theft by China, put an end to forced technology transfer. China is going to buy a bunch of stuff from farmers, our energy sector, manufacturers, and it put an end to currency manipulation. Donald J. Trump, as a candidate, promised he would stand up to China. Today, he kept that promise.
The list of promises just keep going. Can you imagine trying to justify an impeachment at the time we have the best economy in our history, the lowest unemployment rate in our history, the lowest unemployment for blacks and Hispanics and women and young people, and now he's signing all these trade deals where we're going to make it more. We got the UMCA signed, which means that's going to increase the economy even more. So the 2020 economy is going to be cooking along in a massively positive direction with all these new trade deals, and they have no way to stop it. He's now appointed somebody of the Federal Reserve that he now is. You notice they're not raising it, and he's pushed them on with his bully pulpit on his Twitter account to put them in a corner where they can't justify raising rates, or it's going to expose the Federal Reserve as being the corrupt manipulator that they are. Because if they raise rates when the economy is going well and there's no inflation, to me, this is the Lord acting out on our economy to blessing us with massive growth, income growth, despite all the illegals, despite all the problems we have, and not having any inflation. So the Fed can't kill the economy. They could easily kill it, just like when they wanted to put Barack in and get out Bush, even though both are bad, right? They actually quickly raised rates and just crashed the economy right before the election. So he didn't get his second term. Thank goodness he's as bad as anybody. Daddy Bush was. But anyway, the whole point is that we had the Clintons coming in before the Obamas came in. But you see with George Bush and Clinton, the whole cabal controlled both sides. But they wanted their Clintons in. They wanted their Obamas in, and they do two things when they want to kill the economy. They raise the interest rates and they quantitative tighten. They take the money out of circulation. That's not talked about near enough. That's how they quickly destroyed us in the Great Depression, and that's how they just created the worst economy in 50 years in 2008. So those of you got damaged like I did in 2008, this is a personal thing, I'm sure, knowing that the Federal Reserve caused that so they could come sweep anything up with all their cronies and friends to take everything away from the wealth from we the people. It's exactly what they want to do. Here is Sidney Powell and Joseph, it was retweeted by Sidney Powell, but Joseph Flynn, who is the brother of General Flynn. It says, "Thank you, Lord. Today we make a stand for justice and the American way of life." And here it is. I went over this in detail on yesterday's show about Flynn fighting back here hard, and the fact that General Mike's statement to withdraw his plea at real Donald Trump and all these people he's talking about. So you can that was Barbara Flynn actually that actually tweeted the actual article. But look at this. I want to show you something the Praying Medic showed here. Understanding General Flynn's case. Here's your guide to the latest wild developments with Michael Flynn, thefederalist.com. I know there's a lot of patriots planning to be there on the 28th for sentencing. I think this changes the timing of that, though, I believe. So let's look at the Federalist article here. It's interesting. It says, here's your guide to the latest wild developments with Michael Flynn. In the escalating dispute between government attorneys and former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, new lawyer, the letter has the better argument. You are asking my client to lie, Michael Flynn's new defense attorney, Sidney Powell, charged in a contentious June meeting with federal prosecutors. Flynn would continue to cooperate with prosecutors, Powell stressed, but he could not provide the testimony the government sought by the jury trial of Flynn Intel Group, FIG, co-founder John Ravakin, because it's not true. Soon after the government filed a motion, the Ravakin case, branding Flynn a co-conspirator and informing the court that Flynn would no longer testify against his former business partner. While federal prosecutors are reticent to explain how Flynn went from being a star witness to complicit in the crimes which they charged. A scourging of the court records reveals the genesis of the falling out. It also suggests that in the escalating dispute between the government attorneys and Flynn new lawyer, Powell has the better argument. So I want to start with some background. I gave you some background. I'm not going to go over all that because I think most of you have the background. I'm going to go down to, until now, Flynn wasn't charged in the case. The indictment charged Raffican with conspiring with Alpkin and others unnamed in the indictment to act as an agent of the Turkey government. This is the whole FARA. This is where the FARA, the Foreign Agent Registration Act, is going to wipe out the media, I believe. That's going to be what we use to wipe them out when we realize that they've been getting all this money from foreign governments and all the foreign talking points from foreign Mossad / MI6 / CIA, right? All these treasonous people, those are foreign agents working against the country. And the Mockingbird media repeats the foreign talking points. That is FARA criminality and treason, in my opinion. But anyway, that's what they were talking about. They were acting as an agent of the Turkish government without prior notification, which is required under FARA, to the Attorney General, and conspiring to file a material false Foreign Agents Registration Act statement. A second count charged Raffican with, quote, knowingly acting and causing others to act in the United States as agents of the Turkish government without prior notification to the Attorney General. Significantly, Flynn was not charged in the ED of Virginia case, nor was he named in the indictment as an unindicted co-conspirator. As recently as June 13, 2019, in response to a question from the bench concerning whether the government was alleging that Flynn was part of the conspiracy, and the assistant U.S. attorney of Australia handling the case unequivocally stated, quote, "We are not, Your Honor," adding that there will certainly be testimony from General Flynn, and from that testimony, the jury could draw a reasonable inference that there was a conspiracy. But we do not contend that General Flynn was part of the conspiracy. That's what they said on June of 2019. The special counsel also did not charge Flynn in the D.C. District Court with any crimes related to the FARA. Rather, Mueller's team charged the former National Security Director with making false statements to the FBI, which one of the FBI agents said thought he was being truthful. So this, to me, was part of the plan to introduce all his evidence he had of the bodies that were buried in the Obama administration. That's why the Obama administration's been attacking him since day one. Let's see. And so this talks about making false statements to the FBI concerning his conversations with the Russian ambassador. It was to that charge, not the FARA charge, that Flynn pleaded guilty in December 1st, 2017. So he pled guilty to the false statements. We all know about that, even though everything's saying that he didn't really lie, right? And that's what's interesting. Now, after his guilty plea, Flynn continued to cooperate both with Mueller's team and with the attorneys working in the Raffican and Alpine case. And I believe that he was working with other, I guess, investigators to get all his evidence into the court to basically strengthen a lot of these sealed indictments, the 144,000 we're talking about. With Flynn's cooperation ongoing, his sentencing for making false statements to the FBI was held in abeyance by D.C. Court Judge Emmett Sullivan, who has presided over Flynn's case since shortly after Flynn entered the guilty plea in December of 2017. So in late June, Flynn went before Judge Sullivan, and Sullivan said, you should withdraw your plea, dude. He tried to get him, but Flynn said no. So everybody's going, well, I wonder what's going on. And that's when they switched the attorneys. What the court documents say happened. I'm going to kind of skip this because most people are aware of the background there. It'll summarize it later anyway. You were asking my client to lie. So then we have Sidney Powell comes in. At this point, things got tense. Federal prosecutor Brandon Van Grack, who has handled the criminal case against Flynn on the charge of making false statements to the FBI since the case originated under special counsel Robert Mueller, countered that Flynn's agreement with the government was extensive and he was aware of the false statement in the FAR filing. He was part of the discussions, and the language in the statement of the offense is the language your client agreed to, Van Crick said. But Van Grack added that the general pushed back on some language in the statement of offense, but not this language. And Flynn did not say anything in front of the judge, Van Grack added. If not willingly, why not say something? Powell countered that nothing in the statement of offense says willfully, knowingly regarding FARA. It's what McCassin called very heated. Van Grack barked without willfully, knowingly. It doesn't make this an offense, referring to the FARA false statements. This is the first time your client or counsel has made any statement like what you are saying. I want to be clear, Van Grack sneered. You are saying that he did not provide any false, misleading statements to Covington. Powell countered, you are asking my client to lie. Everything I have seen is consistent. If you have seen something, show us. That's like beautiful, beautiful. Van Grack reported, no one is asking your client to lie. Be careful about what you say. And that was the big fight that started there. Government then decides to up the legal pressure on Flynn by saying by recommending he was going to get 6 months. And that's when this whole, they all came down to basically just counting mouse game. And so let's boil down to what all this means. These filings indicate that federal prosecutors believe or pretend to believe that Flynn knowingly made false statements in the FARA registration statements, and that he admitted as much when he pleaded guilty to making false statements to the FBI about the conversations with the Russian ambassador, which is two separate things. Conversely, Flynn maintains that while the FARA registration statements he signed included material false statements, he did not knowingly sign false statements. Rather, he provided truthful information to his Covington attorneys, trusted them to incorporate the relevant details in the FARA filing, and signed the statement without knowing it included false statements. Flynn further maintains that he never said that he signed the FARA statements knowing that they had false information. In retrospect, and after learning more details, Flynn agrees that the FARA filings for FIG included material false statements, which entirely consistent with the grand jury testimony, his statement of offense, his plea colloquy, and his statements made over the nearly 2 years of cooperation with the special counsel team, according to Flynn's legal team. And so this comes down to, did Flynn know he was signing false statements? It comes into that. It is a very good article, by the way, but it takes too long to read the whole thing. But the record supports Powell and Flynn's claims here. What happens next is anyone's guess. So these questions, however, are unlikely to arise in reference trial, which began earlier this week. Rather than when Flynn returns to Judge Sullivan's court for sentencing, Joel Sullivan will need to delve into these issues. How Judge Sullivan reacts is unpredictable. Will he blame the federal prosecutors for poor drafting the statement of offense and chastise them for failing to inform him of the Covington's role in the draft of the FARA filings, or will he see Flynn as attempting to change his story? So before considering when Flynn was a co-conspirator, the court held a conspiracy involving trafficking must be shown at the trial, which I don't think they've done. Now, here's what it all means. To explain all these legal niceties, hearsay is a statement made out of court admitted to prove the truth of the assertion. Hearsay is generally inadmissible, although some out-of-court statements are defined as non-hearsay, and some hearsay statements are exempt from the rule. So Judge Tegna is saying that if the government shows trafficking is part of a conspiracy, then he will need to consider whether the prosecutors can renege on the admission that Flynn was not a co-conspirator. If so, then the court will need to determine whether the government presented sufficient evidence that Flynn was a co-conspirator to allow hearsay evidence from Flynn to come in. So this is I hope you see that this is incredibly complex, and we need to be praying for General Flynn, because he did sign something that probably he didn't know about, but there was false material statements in it in this other and complete case, different case, right? But they tried to get him to lie, and they're trying to take the FBI thing about the Russia, which he should be talking to Russians when he was coming in as the national security advisor. So it's a complete fraud by the government to try to take Flynn down, mainly because they're part of the deep state trying to stop him from what he knows. The hearing ended on that note, leaving the press and pundits to speculate on the content of that information and why it wasn't previously provided to the special counsel. The prosecution team handling Flynn and the applicant's criminal trials or defense attorneys, if last week is any gauge, will soon have much more to speculate on as well. So this is a very complex case, but I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware that this could be real big trouble and could end up in that 6 months of sentencing for Flynn, which is just a crime because he was so awesome at really serving this country, as well as he's going to be, I think, of the big takedown. He's going to be part of the big takedown. And so we hope he's free soon. Now, here's the whole James O'Keefe thing. They've opened up part 2. Update at Bernie Sanders, Iowa State Director. This is a statement on Exposed 2020. Secret Service investigating field organizer Kyle Jurek. More tapes coming soon. Stay tuned. So listen to this little 2-minute video. I'm going to turn down the fan.
Hello, everyone. James O'Keefe, Project Veritas Action. Some news to report to you today after the latest Kyle Jurek tape. Some sources came to us and told us that Kyle Jurek was a danger. He was maybe potentially going to assassinate the president. We notified the United States Secret Service. Our general counsel talked to them, and they are looking into the matter. What happened was we released the tape today. If you want to zoom in on here, this is Kyle Jurek, field organizer with the Sanders campaign, saying there are some things more important than the rule of law.
More important than the rule of law in the United States when it comes down to the existence of human rights.
And Misty Rebick, that's the person who hired Kyle, she put out a statement, if you want to zoom in on that right there, and it says, quote, "This is political gossip." Misty is seemingly responding to this series of tapes. You could even see some of the comments on that saying, there's no underselling how big a disaster this is. The gulags weren't supposed to be unveiled until the general election. Seriously, though, nobody cares. So their strategy is to seemingly ignore this, maybe not even respond to it, but they are responding to it. They're issuing signals. If you want to take a look at this, seemingly every leader in Iowa, Bernie Sanders, is locking their account. Oliver Hidalgo, the political director, locked his Twitter account. Chris Newbert, political coordinator, locking their account. Victoria Moon, coordinator, locking her account. Coordinator, field director, director in Iowa for Political Revolution, field director and comms director, Iowa comms director, Roger Ouellette, all locking their Twitter accounts. This is a truly extraordinary thing when even comms directors are stopping messaging for the political campaign. 9 people, and then Misty locking her account in response to comments that Misty called, quote, political gossip. So it's a lose-lose situation for them, because if they don't respond to this and then keep Kyle employed, that's a huge deal. And if they do respond to it and terminate Kyle, that becomes news. They're in a difficult pickle. My advice to them, do the ethical thing, respond to the story, because we have more coming, showing that this is not isolated.
Have more coming. So the whole Exposed 2020, Bernie Sanders being nailed here. And here's a whole Project Veritas exposes radical communist and Bernie Sanders campaign. YouTube's doing a lot of censoring. This is another guy who put this up. I'll include all this in the show notes. Again, everything I've shown you here, I'll have in the show notes. You just need to go to blessed2teach.com. Blessed with the number 2 teach.com. And you can sign up for the newsletter and or just see the notes right there. Now, here's a thread that looks like Sean Cordicon was trying to put together, and they're really messing with his account. I was looking at his actual Twitter over here trying to figure out what his threads were, but they kept breaking the threads. This is another deep state tactic that the tech companies do, where you have a liberal person or somebody that hates Trump, their threads will stay together perfectly. Somebody starts doing a big thread that's a patriot, and their threads get broken all the time, right? And so he's talking about General Flynn here, and it's a thread that there's not much there. It's just talking all about Flynn and other items. But what I want to focus you on is this thread, which is unfortunately broken too. But he's talking about Q and a theory here. He's talking about, why hasn't the left smeared Trump with Q? Why hasn't The MSM used Q to smear Trump. Why hasn't any insider asked Trump the Q? The question about, hey, President Trump, do you believe in Q or are you Q? Logical thinking here. These folks shut Chan down to stop Q. These scumbags will do anything to stop us. Why not do what's easy and attack Trump with Q? Because they've already tried to label it as a conspiracy theory, and why not attack it? And why not link it to Trump and try to discredit Trump? And this talks about from darkness to light. In my opinion, it can only be one of three logical answers. One, they know Q is top level and can't call it out. He says this makes zero sense given their corruption. Number two, they are in on the movie. Maybe. I don't think that's the case here. Now, some of them could be. I think some of them were probably in secret military tribunals last year and are, basically got their ankle bracelets or whatever or had to make a deal, even though Q says no deal. I think that's to keep the puppet masters not understanding who's spying on them and who's not. And I believe some people are basically working to reduce their sentence. And I believe that's happening right now. So I think that's where he is on the maybe there. Three, or maybe it's as Q states themselves. And so, where he's basically saying this is much bigger than even Otis can imagine. Much bigger. This is where it says, I think Q went to Chan to drop for many reasons. But I'm starting to think the ultimate reason was not because aliens will search for the truth. That they will. I think Q chose Chan because aliens will see and also choose to believe the hardest truth once they find it. 5-5. And this is the January 13th post where Q says, we are fighting for life. We are fighting for good. We are at war. Not everything will be clean. Scare, necessary event. Do you trust the U.S. military? Do you trust the chain of command? Have faith. We are in control. Patriots. Patriots Day. Have faith. You were chosen for a reason. You are being provided the highest level of intel to ever be dropped publicly in the history of the world. Use it. Protect and comfort those around you. Where we go one, we go all. Q. Why are they working so hard to try to discredit something they label as a fake conspiracy? QAnon, you see here is fake news, blue check marks, get queued. You are not alone, and you are not in the minority. Difficult truths will soon see the light of day. Where we go one, we go all. Q. So that's what he's pointing to. He's pointing there's going to be ugly, ugly things coming out that maybe even we can't imagine now. And because we've known to trust Q, we know he's, go to qproofs.com if you want to see the literally almost thousands of proofs that if you multiply the amount of coincidences within one proof, it can be multiple. You times that by the hundreds they have. It's amazing, and that's where it becomes mathematically impossible, right? With all the truths, go to qproofs.com and you'll see that. I think that's what he's getting into. So, want to get red pilled? Go to qmap.pub. That's where it's pushing in. I'm going to go full on out here, though. No facts at all in this, just more random thoughts. And this is where it breaks. I'm not sure how he really went from here. Are you familiar with the book of Job? Who is it to say we aren't witnessing those same laws in real time? The one God laid out for Satan to follow while trying to destroy Job. Remember, he let Satan do horrible things to Job before he glorified himself and rewarded Job later, right? So could that be what's happening? Is that we are also frustrated because arrests haven't happened and all that type of stuff, and he's letting Satan show himself and be exposed. I believe it's really to expose themselves, to capture the puppet masters, which is the 13 Illuminati and the 5 groups in there, right? And really clean up the whole world and not just portions of this. And that the only way you're going to do that without killing maybe thousands and thousands of Americans based on protest because of the brainwashing they've had with the MSM, that it's going to take even more time to wake everybody up, right? So I'm not sure it's necessary him letting Satan punish us like he did with Job, but interesting. So then he has a quote here. It says, "I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be naked when I leave. The Lord gave me what I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise the name of the Lord." So that's what Job did. And that's part of our job, even if we're frustrated with the way the Lord's handling this, if you will. Our white hats are handling this with the Lord's help. We should be praising the Lord because something amazing is happening here that we probably don't fully understand right now. I think that's where he went. I thought that was pretty good. And so this is sad that this got broken. So I tried to follow it and just really couldn't figure out where he was going with the rest of that. But you can see here on Twitter, you can find Sean Corticon, Sean Corticon, all with C's there on the K sounds, right? Corticon, Cordicon. Follow Sean, great guys. You know, he got in that big accident. I'm so glad he made it through that. I don't believe governor of the Virginia, he is looking for a provocation to justify removing guns from law-abiding citizens. Everything he does has political motive to this end. So you see this breaking article about Ralph Northam is announcing a temporary emergency banning all weapons, including guns, from Capitol Square ahead of Monday's massive gun rights rally. Northam says he fears a Charlottesville-type violence. So be careful out there. I heard that they actually had that already. This was 5 hours ago. So it'll be interesting to see what this says now, how many hours ago this was. This is not telling me a time frame here. 3 hours on this one. Virginia governor declares state of emergency. Yeah, so here's a state of emergency that's actually been, it looks like 3 hours ago or so was declared. So pray for people in Virginia. They need to go fight for their Second Amendment rights, obviously. Now here, let's move to Epstein. Huge new Epstein details. The Attorney General of Virginia Islands has filed a suit against his estate, claiming new evidence shows he was trafficking hundreds of women through his private island there until as recently as 2018. So again, more lawsuits coming everywhere. And there it is on the Caribbean and all kinds of new information. So you'll have the show notes there if you want to dig into that in more detail. Here we are on another ad saying, "Me and my black husband support Trump and Q 100%. They have no time for racist BS and want to help all patriots regardless of skin color." So we talked about this. Just like the Bible clearly talks about all is equal at the foot of the cross. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman or what class you are or what color your skin is. All is equal at the foot of the cross. And that is the way the Constitution of the United States was all built. The melting pot could work well together, and the deep state and you can't have a new world order with a strong United States. That's why they attack it constantly. And it is so cool that the Q movement's the same way. And Trump is the same way too, even though they try to label him a racist. It's a complete lie. That's why he's doing so much for the black community, the Hispanic community. And you just see even many people in the gay community actually joining the walkaway movement. It's just amazing what's happening when you actually love the country, and it shows. Those not brainwashed by the MSM actually fall back in love with Trump. So I fall back in love with the patriot movement that we're seeing right now. This person said, "Just watch the rally." This is probably the one last night in Wisconsin. "Obviously, Trump loves his country. Trump loves his supporters, and every American should have full confidence." So I was just talking about, right? First term was used for investigations and evidence gathering. They will be fully prepared to drain the swamp second term. That's what they're scared to death. They know, oh my goodness, we can't beat him in the polls when they do the honest polls, right? And they put in the Trump factor for those people who are Trump supporters, but since they made it so poisonous that they won't admit it, they add that 6 or 7 points in there. And even with 93% negative media, we have 53% approval and 93% 90 plus in Republicans and evangelical support going through the roof and the walkaway movement and the black support being up above 30%, they know they're in trouble. They have to do something outside of what's happening right now, or he's going to be elected again. That's why they're trying to dirty him up with impeachment and everything they can possibly think of. Arresting Obama and Hillary at this point could jeopardize the election. That's right. That's one reason we're not going to do that right now. CNN and MSNBC would label him as a dictator. The fight to red pill the sleeping electorate continues. Many groundbreaking revelations will be revealed before the next election. When Trump is elected, he has nothing to lose. Pain will be delivered. Shills never thought she would lose. Shills know Trump can't be stopped. Shills can shove it. And so I thought that was just really cute. A little more colorful language than I would be using, but it shows you that this is an amazing time to be alive, guys. I'm so proud of that. This is awesome. Praying the Lord will lift the blinders from the eyes of people who are still asleep. Ann Pearson, you're exactly right. That's exactly what I think our job is. I always talk about my audience being red-pilled Christian patriots, right? So we have a lot of Christian patriots that are red-pilled. That's a real select group, and that's the remnant. That's what Mark Taylor would call the army of God, I believe. And we need to fight the spiritual battle. And we also need to help red-pill as many people as we can, because I believe that is going to be the key to when the arrest can happen, when we can get the criminals out of our government, we can have true freedom of religion, and that is when Christianity and the truth of the true one living God through Jesus Christ will come apparent to everybody, because the lies will end. Who knows? Maybe we'll get more clarification on some scriptures, et cetera, like Mark Taylor's talking about. Again, he's on the show Friday night. I go live earlier on Friday night about 5 p.m. for those of you looking for that show, 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mark's time. I have a plan for the left to get Trump out of office. So you click on it and you open it up and it says, it'll take at least 5 years, though. Oh, boy, that's funny. Mark Taylor now has another different take on that, by the way. His take is that there's going to be another Trump in 2024. And it's either going to be Ivanka or it's going to be Trump Jr. He saw Jr. in a dream. It'll be interesting to see if that ends up being the case. Virginia gun confiscation bill polled as huge pro-gun crowd shows up at legislator to protest. Now, this is what I did. It was only in the Western Journal. You guys have let me know. I always question things. And this is when we talked about the state of emergency was being dropped. So I just don't know how accurate this is. I'm going to refresh it to see if this has been updated at all. But the Second Amendment rally was huge. Democrats might wield power in the Old Dominion, but gun right backers haven't given up the fight. As lawmakers met Monday to consider a slew of gun control bills, they were greeted by thousands of Second Amendment supporters determined to voice their opposition. So it'll be real interesting to see how that gunfight goes. They don't know what they're getting into. Again, another death of the Democratic Party when you start taking pure amendments out of the Constitution. The non-constitutional actions here is clearly from those following the deep state who are trying to kill this country. Because you can't have a new world order with a strong melting pot of people that love each other, work together, and create an awesome economy like we've never seen. When that happens, the new world order is over. They had to weaken America. They had to kill America. That's why they had the 16-year plan to kill America. And it's not working real well in their favor, is it? Here's Donald Trump saying, I agree with him on this. So Trump is actually agreeing with a Democrat. Can you believe that? And look what he says. This is Steyer, the billionaire. This is a little just 4-second clip, so listen.
Democrats are going to destroy the economy in 15 minutes if they get in control. Democrats are going to destroy the economy in 15 minutes if they get in control.
So Trump trolls him and says, Steyer, Democrats are going to destroy the economy in 15 minutes if they get in control. True. Hashtag Democratic debate. And Trump retweets that. I agree with him on this 100%. But why would anyone vote Democrat? We are setting all-time records with the economy. Exactly right. And, people vote with their pocketbooks, and people are just, it's not, I think God just using the great economy, the lack of inflation, the high growth, the wage growth for the first time, getting people off food stamps so they feel good about themselves, to wake everybody up. It's part of this ascension process. It's part of the Great Awakening. And what a beautiful time to be alive. Yeah. Super Dad says, awesome political ad. That's exactly right. Here's Tiffany saying, when all is said and done, humanity will remember those who told them the truth. And this is why I tell people when I'm giving them recommendation on how to red pill people. Everybody's different. Everybody's different styles. It depends on whether they're Christians or how much Trump derangement syndrome they have, et cetera. But I always like to try to Operation Mockingbird because it's just a provable thing. In fact, I'm going to do a show probably on Saturday on Operation Mockingbird. That's going to be very detailed that my Cultural Impact System team pulled together. It's beautiful. Probably a couple shows, actually. It's so detailed. And so number one is Operation Mockingbird. Understand it. Understand the JFK files. Understand all the invented term of conspiracy theory and how they tried to keep the Warren Commission report. That we got some of these JFK files 50 years later, and they showed they lied to us for 50 years, especially about Operation Mockingbird. So that's number one. Number two is Epstein, because everybody knows he's a pedo. Everybody knows he's dirty. And once more detail comes out about who was actually at the island, that's going to be a big wake-up call for people. And then thirdly, I say just what Stephanie's here. Who told them the truth over the last 2.5 years? Go look at the Democratic memo versus the Nunes memo. Look at what Shifty Schiff did in the complete lie. You can compare that to the IG report. Everything in the IG report matches almost identical with what Nunes told us the truth 2 years ago with the Nunes memo. And then you had everybody that lied was Shifty Schiff and the whole cabal. You can basically just see who's been lying to you the last 2 years about the Russian hoax. It's going to be really interesting. Here is furious speech by top German on rampant migrant crime. You allowed war machines into our country. And there's a link, there's a transcript here. People are waking up worldwide. This isn't just about America. This is this whole plan, 16-year plan to kill America. They also had the invasion plan to the EU, and people are onto it. This is what Mark Taylor's saying. Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan, say they won't move here until President Trump is out of the White House. Well, let me be the first to inform them they will have a long wait, because after his second term, there will be another Trump in the White House. Now that's winning. And so that's so somebody put up this meme here. I thought it was funny. It's Trump of the 216, 20, 20. And it has Ivanka, which, by the way, there's a lot of people I trust who really believe that, that Ivanka is going to be the next one. And then it shows that the different type of Trumps and all the way to Barron Trump in 2048. That meme will piss people off. If you want to forward that to all your social media, that will trigger a lot of people, as Trump Jr.'s book says, triggered, right? Here's Senate asked Pelosi. Oh, yeah, I already showed you that. So we're wrapped up here. I'm going to go into a prophecy. They're watching this closely. Every tweet is being scrutinized. One slip up, and that's all it takes. So they're basically censoring us like mad, the big tech companies. That's what we need to be. All document everything that happens to you, and we can do class action lawsuits against them. A Trump donor who allegedly surveilled former Ambassador Maria Yovanovitch in Ukraine has promoted the white ring QAnon conspiracy theory. So here we go. Here's another trying to damage us and the Q movement and say Q's bad. So here's kind of what we were talking about, a link trying to link some of these people into the QAnon movement. And so I'm gonna skip all the way to the Blessed to Teach show and show you guys. Here is where you'll see the show notes right here. Go to blessedtoteach.com with a number 2 to get my show notes, right? And these are nice, guys. It's not just a bunch of links. You'll see here. Here's my Flynn plea withdrawn show yesterday. And you'll see it's got all these nice, look at that picture of Trump and Melania. What a great picture. And you just see that everything renders really nicely on WordPress. So these show notes I put a lot of time into them. And so I think you'll really enjoy getting on the email list to get the sent to you every time after a show, my 5-week a night show, right? You also have blogs, and you have when I go live here in the About section. And also, I am going to be going on the road speaking here soon. So I love, I'm a prior Toastmaster in both my MBA program as well as my, what do you call it? Not only that, not only the MBA program, but also in my undergraduate. And and so I just love speaking out in front of the public, especially about this message of the Great Awakening, about fighting the deep state, get involved, going from frustrated spectators to impactors, and how I help people do that. I'm helping small teams really work well together. Here's my why bring me on stage video. A lot of information about where I've spoken before and what I love to talk about. So again, go to blessed2teach.com. You'll be able to see that if you know some stages you want me on, whether it's physical stages or other podcasts, etc. I'd love to be on your stage, wherever that might be. So let me know about that. Let's move over to a prophecy here. Only got 5 minutes left, so we'll whip through this. This is Mark Taylor talking about time is up. It's 2 paragraphs. He wrote this in 2015. Remember, almost a whole year before the election. The Spirit of God says, I am neutering the sitting president, talking about Obama. I am neutering the sitting president in this hour. So his evil and corrupt ideologies and theologies can no longer reproduce in this country. I call my United States of America for this man who holds a title called the President of the United States will begin to lose their grip from it and be stripped of it. For the Lord God will rip it from him. This man who calls himself Commander-in-Chief is nothing more than a lying, deceitful thief. The Spirit of God says, time is up for those who are corrupt. I shall begin to remove those who stand for evil in leadership and stand in the way of my agenda. Judges, senators, congressmen, and women of all kinds, even in the local, state, and federal lines, even the Supreme Court is not immune from their corrupt and evil ways. For I will remove some and expose their backdoor deals which have been at play. For my America has been chosen as a launching platform for my harvest, and she will be a light unto the world. Once again, as I clean up that which is the darkest. Fear not, America. Your greatest days are ahead of you. Arise, my army, and fight, and watch what I'll do for you. Wow, what an amazing prophecy written down in November of 2015. You can find all of his prophecies at swordrescue.com, SORD rescue.com. Again, Mark is going to be on my show Friday night, 5 p.m. Central Time. Let's end in a scripture and a prayer. Matthew 5:16 says, in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So this is one of my many, what I call the Bible memory verses, right? Bible memory verse. Memory verse. You can go to BibleMemory.com on your PC or go download the app called Bible Memory, and you will be able to see, even you can search on Blessed to Teach with a T-O this time, and you can see my 67 or 68 scriptures that I continually memorize. And this is one of them. And it basically is kind of cool is that you have a light, shine it. Right? Shine that light, and people will glorify God. And I think if we shine the light of even QAnon, or shine the light of just truth versus error, or shine the light of good versus evil, people will be listening to you more in the future, and eventually will come to know your Father in heaven. Just like this says here. They'll see your good deeds, the truth you're telling people. And what's going to happen? They will glorify your Father in heaven eventually. What a beautiful promise. So remember Matthew 5:16. Wow. I love it. So with that, let me pray and end her up here. So Heavenly Father, just thank you for Matthew 5:16, where you talk about that we have a light when we have Christ in our life, and that we need to share that, Lord. We need to share the truth with others, the truth of Q, the truth of just evil versus good versus evil. And Lord, obviously the truth of the gospel, the truth of the one true God, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, the truth of the Savior, Jesus Christ. And when we share that, people will see our good deeds, and eventually they're going to glorify our Father in heaven. Now, I know there's many people asleep, Lord. Give us the words to say. Allow us to see our friends and family and many loved ones come to know the truth about this movement of the Great Awakening, and the truth about you. We say these things in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. So I know that we went over a lot of news here, guys. And until the next guest gets on, I'll just go over a little bit more news. Laura, you let me know when.
I am here.
Oh, you're here. All right.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. How are you doing today?
I am well, thanks. I am just waiting for Joe Flynn to get here. Now, we did a trial run about a half hour ago, so he should be here at any time. Awesome,
awesome. So we were talking here about the Democratic Party death. And then we talked about Joe Flynn, and we talked about Project Veritas videos and all kinds of exciting things that have been happening here today. So it's not a slow news night for sure. So what are you going to be covering?
I'm actually having Joe Flynn on. General Flynn's brother is going to be my guest.
Wow. Okay, we actually showed him here. So I'll go grab his tweet from yesterday. We can see while we're waiting on him real quick.
Okay.
I'll show you. I think I showed a. I'll just do this. I'll just go to Twitter real quick. Probably faster than me searching through my 30 tabs. But that is pretty cool. So congratulations on getting him on.
Thanks.
Yeah, Joe Flynn. See, I'm not sure exactly what his.
It's Joseph Flynn.